Okay, thank you. Hi, welcome to the stream. We'll start in 3 minutes. Uh, so, in the meanwhile, I'll just introduce myself. So, I've been working in game development for um, 2 years now. I had a mix of experience in digital marketing as well as game development. So, I mostly work with Unity and a visual scripting tool called Playmaker. So we'll be focusing on Playmaker, and we'll try to create a game uh, in the live stream. Hi, welcome to the stream. Hi, welcome. We'll just get started in 1 minute, and yeah, I'll be opening Unity and explaining a little bit of Playmaker, and then we'll be taking assets from online and um, just make something like a Flappy Bird prototype. Can you guys hear me? Um, I hope you guys can hear me. Let's start. Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's get started. So welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining the stream, everyone. And so I'll be mostly focusing on Unity and a tool called Playmaker. So Playmaker is a paid tool, but it allows beginners and um, like people who are new to programming to learn what exactly uh, goes into programming and how you can make something um, very fast. So Playmaker is that kind of Unity plugin, and there are some really good games that are made in Playmaker. Uh, so there's this game called Limbo. Limbo's I consider it inside as the sequel of Limbo. It has the art style kind of, and you can read about how Playmaker was used in some really cool projects. There's an ongoing project where people are making a police simulator. Yeah, so those are some examples where Playmaker is used. So if you go to the asset store and check Playmaker, it's actually $32, but there is there are certain bundles that you can get. Let's say like Humble Bundle. Sometimes they give Unity assets for uh, a very discounted price, and you can. This is a very cool um, site to check on plugins and stuff. So this is the plugin I use for making games, and it's not only about visual scripting. It's also about like how fast it can. Yeah. So it's also about how fast it can help the game development process. Yeah. Do you have any recommendations? Okay. We'll just play whatever you call. So I'll just install Playmaker in the project, and let's make a Flappy Bird game out of it. So in the meanwhile, which uh, okay, some not an artist, but give me a song or something. Okay, okay. So is am I audible? Yeah, okay. So I'll just continue with. Oh, okay. But it'll be a distraction if I increase the volume. And let's find some Flappy Bird assets that we can use. This is not for any commercial purpose. It's just for teaching. So I think that we can just use any of this. Oh gosh. So I'll just save it in a folder for images, and we'll just open up the project. And this is the UI for Playmaker, which I'll just show you what it does in a minute. And in our images, we can just make it into a sprite. And we just need to. So there are certain tools that make the game development process really fast. How do you get started with game designs? Game design, I guess like that's a very broad question, but I think you just need to make some prototypes, maybe like mixed genres of games, and then like you'll have experience creating them. Uh, so that way, I'll quickly cut out this background so that we can use it in the game. And there we have it. So just export it as PNG and replace it. Uh, you can learn Playmaker in their official website, official channel. It's called Hutong Games, the publisher's name, and it's it's really helpful to start with the official series first, and then there are certain there is a list of channels that focus on um, Playmaker as well. I do tutorials personally for Playmaker. So my channel is Games with Frank. I'll just search Games with Frank on YouTube, and this is my channel where I do a lot of tutorials on Playmaker. It has been a little inactive recently, but here's the link if you want to learn Playmaker. So I'll just rename this as player and give it. So in Unity, what this does is it just gives you the visual, and you put in an image, and also it has a transform component which controls the movement and the position of it in the world. So this is you can see that the X and Y are changing if I yeah X and Y are changing if I move the sprite here. So I'll just keep it back to the middle, and so in Unity, the camera, I mean, like, since we're making this game for 2D, like there's a option for perspective, I mean, like projection in the camera, that you can set it to orthographic if you're making a 2D game. And something like Crossy Roads also has an orthographic view. So I'll just put it to something like that and change this back to solid color, the background, and make it a little blue like that. The original Flappy Bird color. And you can make pretty complex games. If you go to Playmaker's website, you can see there the games made with Playmaker in the showcase tab. Hollow Knight is an indie masterpiece, and that was created using Playmaker. And not just that, you can do inventory systems, complex tower defense games, and also basic 2D games as well. You can look up this site. I'll just paste it here. So we'll get back to making our scene, and we can add a component. Since we have only the graphics, we need something to collide with. So in Unity, that's called a box collider, but there are different components for 2D as well as 3D. So 2D components are mentioned with 2D in the end. So I'll just add this, and you can click on this icon to edit the collider. And some games give you the freedom to uh, collide with obstacles, even if if you miss a little bit, but you still survive. So that makes the player a little more happy and less annoying. But Flappy Bird was an annoying game all the way. So so all we need to do now is add some obstacles and also the player movement. So I'll just go to Playmaker and add an FSM. So FSM is finite state machine, and it is basically like a flowchart in Unity. So if I say like add a state, and it goes from start to state 1 to state 2, and once state 1 is finished, it will go to state 2. So that's how, that's the basic UI of Playmaker. But what happens is inside states you can add a lot of actions. So this is the complete action list. What do you mean a validator? Validator in this? Are you talking about bool test or? Yeah, so that's how the basic UI and functioning of Playmaker is. And so for this, we'll just get started by saying get key. So we'll be looking for a key input, and I'll be using my space key. So what happens is if you press the key, it's actually considered key down, and when you release it, it's called key up. So that's if you are familiar with Unity, then you'll be knowing that. And so if I go to key and select space, and I'll send an event to finish, and let's create a new state. It's called, and call it jumping. So once this state is finished, and this state is finished only if you press this key. So it's basically like a flowchart, and let's give it a add force. So this is a physics action, and there's one thing that Unity has, that you need to add a rigid body component. If you have a collider, you also need a rigid body to interact with physics and gravity sort of stuff. And if you click here, it will directly add it, and you can adjust the mass based on how your game will feel like. So visual scripting is one thing where it's hard to find a job that uses only visual scripting, because most of the Unity development goes into C#, and this just acts as a tool to, let's say, rapid prototyping and making quick games, but also gives you the idea of how programming works. So in that way, um, you can learn game dev through Playmaker and then uh, go for C sharp, and you'll get the hang of it as soon as you start understanding Playmaker as well. So I'll just give it a value of 200, and I'll put it back to the finished state. So what happens here is when you press space, it will go to jumping state, and it'll go back to the first state. So I'll just hit play, and you can see that there is absolutely less, what do you say, interaction if I press space, but it still gives that force. So in this case, what the Flappy Bird physics looks like is that they change the um, physics of the player, and so there's something called set velocity, and basically makes it uh, like jump from the place that it is already there. So that's one mechanic that Flappy Bird uses in the game. So I'll just leave it only at Y. So I'll just hit play, and so you can see that we are getting a little bit of that movement. Now I'll just go back and increase this to around 500 and play again. Yeah, now it's getting a little better, but there's something that you can do in Unity which can affect the gravity in your scene. So once you get to project settings, go to edit and project settings. In here, you can see physics 2D. And here you can either increase the gravity totally, or there is something called sleep threshold. And if you decrease it, it takes more uh, gravity, and it renders more physics. So I'll just increase this to, let's say, 15. And also increase this back to 1000 or something. So this is a trial and error kind of. Now we are getting there, and so that's one moment. How do you conceptualize a game? I, I think it's like you need to have that idea. Like if it's already there on the market, then it might not do well because there's a lot of competition, and I think it goes by the art style and your theme of the game. I think what matters is like telling people out there that how unique your game is and how much detail you put into the game. So let's make some sprites. So for that, I'll just go back to Google and search for obstacles. So I'll just go back to GIMP and And in GIMP, I'll just select this uh, obstacle because it's bigger and we can use it to um, position the obstacles properly. And GIMP is one of the tools that is underrated because it's open source and also Inkscape. I'll just reduce this a little bit. And you can find tutorials on GIMP as well. GIMP and Inkscape are really good software that are open source, like Blender. So I'll just name it obstacle and save. So once we have that saved, we can go back to the project and make this a sprite as well. I'll just quickly drag it in here, and there we have. So there's one more thing that we can do here, that is to create something a little longer than this obstacle so that it helps to place it in the scene properly. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this this particular part and then bring it down just like that, and save this instead of the previous one. So now we can see that this will be enough to make obstacles on both sides and position them properly. So previously I discussed about, yes, you can make Angry Birds no code. I have a video on my channel where I make similar mechanics, but it's completely doable in Playmaker. So let's close GIMP for now and go back to Unity. And so since we have these two like this and this one is facing up, we can go to the rotation on C and turn it back to 180 so that it goes like this. And so with Unity, you get to do something like prefabs. So in my assets, I'll just create a folder called prefabs. And what these do is that they save something, some objects, game objects that you can spawn anytime in your game. So I'll just create an empty object in the scene, and I'll just bring it to the center of both the obstacles. There's one more method that you can do, which is create an object inside this obstacle and bring it out. So now it has the same, uh, it is in the same place, and bring its y to the 0, which is the middle of the entire scene. And that way you can put these both inside this game object. And now if you move the game object, all, I mean, like both the obstacle 1 and 2 move along with it. So I'll just call this prefab obstacle prefab, and obstacle bottom and obstacle top. And with this I'll just center it down. Actually, there's one more method that we can do, but I'll just you can just pull, drag and drop the obstacle that you want, or any object that you want, into the prefabs folder, and that way it'll just stay, and you can spawn that any time in your game. So once that is done, you can start coding on how these obstacles spawn in the game. So currently we can see that uh, there is a gap of this much, and we'll just see if the player can pass through it. So in Flappy Bird, the obstacle moves like this. So what happens there is just its x-axis going less, and we do that by a function called translate. It's the same in C#, but like that is why I recommend learning Playmaker and then transition to C#. I'm sorry. Since that is a little slow, and we also need to change the physics. I'll just make it 0.01 maybe, and let's try if the moment feels better. And we need to increase this to at least the 15 price, or even more faster. And there we have it. But now we can touch the obstacle and get away with it. So how does that work in Playmaker? So we created the obstacles, but we don't have any collision on them. So I'll just quickly create 2 box colliders, and make them exactly as the shape is. And the same goes with the above collider as well. And I'll just apply this prefab changes so that this prefab will remain the same. And now if I hit play, you can actually see the player getting affected by that. And there's one more thing that we can do to freeze the rotation, that is under rigid body 2D. And if you freeze this particular aspect and take a look at it again, it'll just stay like that, but it's never going to rotate. And yeah, so now we have collision working. Let's do a simple uh, game restart. So the game restarts whenever the player dies. So you go to Playmaker's FSM panel and like create a new FSM. So in the first FSM, we'll just call it jumping, because that's just what it does. And we'll just create a new FSM and call it death. So what exactly happens is the player collides with some obstacle and then we restart the game. So exactly like a flowchart, you can just double click here in the action panel and go to collision. And since this is a 2D object, we go to collision 2D event and press it. So now it's asking on collision enter 2D. You can also test if the contact is it's still in contact with a game object or it stopped being in contact. So we need to check for a tag here. So for that, we'll be going back into the obstacle and changing the tags of both the rigid bodies, I mean both the colliders here to, so you can select both of them and go to tag and add tag. Since we don't have an obstacle tag, we can create one and click on this plus icon and say obstacle. And since we have that, we go back to these obstacles and select obstacle for both of them. So going back to the script, collide tag, we'll change this to obstacle, and it's asking for an event that we need to send. So I'll just create a new event and say player died. So respawn. So I'll just create a new state, which happens after the first state. And in this state, I simply restart the game. So I'll just press restart and there's a restart level action, and that's basically it. So if I press play now, you can see that the game is restarting whenever I hit an obstacle. Should you push a product in beta and how to test? I think you can get game testers in freelancing websites. Recently, I've also done a project in game testing. I mean, like I worked for as a game tester as a freelancer, and yeah, sites like Upwork and Fiverr, you get game testers for less amount of money, and now since that is done, we can focus on how these, I mean, like there's only one obstacle in the scene right now, so we'll be looking at how you can create unlimited obstacles. So I'll just create an empty object in the scene and just reset its position. So I'll just put the game object out of scene, and you can see this line, this white line here that represents the view of the camera, and I just took it a little outside the view, and I'll just put it here and name this one obstacle spawner. So we are talking about Playmaker and how to make a Flappy Bird. I mean, like to make a prototype of Flappy Bird in Playmaker without any coding. So we are using Unity. Yeah. So we'll just go back to the obstacle spawner and create a new script. And I'll call this script spawn obstacles. So we'll go to the first state and we'll just say create object. And it's asking for a game object. And if we press this little icon here, you can see it's asking if it's in the assets or it's in the scene. So I'll go to assets, since that's where our obstacle is stored as a prefab, and I'll select that. And it's asking for a spawn point, and we can give the same obstacle spawner as the spawn point. And here it's asking for a position. So this one will be the place where we'll be randomizing if the obstacle is a little bit too high or a little bit too low. So that we can experiment with seeing, like, since the obstacle is here, its y position is at -6 and 5 is the y, and 18 is the lowest that we can go. So we'll just write that down, and 5 and 19. Actually, it's -19. Yeah. So once we have that, we can go back to the obstacle spawner script and you can change the height and position in which it spawns. So here you can see that we can specify an x, y, and z variable. So I'll just create a new variable and I'll just call it randomized position. So I'll just so this position is going to be a three numbers which define the x, y, and z axis, and we'll need to create a variable. So I'll just say vector3, and that's the type of variable that we're looking for. So in Playmaker, the best thing is that you can search in this action list, and you'll get all the different actions that are associated with it. And in this, you can see that there's a select random vector3. Sorry, my bad, not this. Yeah, set vector 3 xyz. That's what we are looking for. So this way we'll be able to control x, y, and z coordinates separately. So I'll just select the vector 3 variable that we're going to set as randomized position, and make sure that you're making setting the position before it, and we'll be setting a value of 60. Let's just say 62. Yeah, 60. And as you can see, there's a y component which we have right here. So this y, we'll be selecting a random float. Float is a type of variable which is a decimal, basically a number, but it's in decimal, and you can select between two different values if you're using a random float. And I'll be selecting minimum of -19 and a total of 5, and storing that as a randomized y. So this one, I'll just drag it to the top so that this gets called before setting the y component here. And the z is going to be 0 because like we are not making it in 3D. It will be in 2D. So I'll just create this and store this object instead. I'll just store this obstacle as that and set position, and that is going to allow me to set it in the space of self and world. So there are two components in Unity if you have worked with Unity before. So if I say there's a cube inside Unity and there's another cube. So this is the parent of this cube. And so for this, the XYZ variables will depend on the relativity to its parent. So if I change this, the child also changes. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And so I'll just set this to world because we are not having any parent for this particular object. So I'll just specify the obstacle, and I'll just put the randomized position here. And once that is created, I'll just wait. So you can wait for some 2 seconds and iterate it. So I'll just put a finished statement and go back to the same state. So that way it'll keep on spawning obstacles. So you can see that there is unlimited obstacles. So that's basically Playmaker and how you can make games without using a single line of code. You just need to know the terminology that gets used in Unity, and you'll be able to make anything without using any code. So from this, you can also go forward and make something that deletes the objects so that um, it it deletes the objects when it reaches this particular place. That is one particular thing, and um, making the main menu UI and animations. In the main game, if you notice, there is a rotation while the bird is falling down. That's one thing that we can uh, do. For now, I'll just leave it here. And if you have any questions about Playmaker or anything else related to game development, I'll be happy to answer. Do you have any questions? No, this is not a free tool, but there are other visual scripting tools like Bolt. Bolt is not recently, but it was included in Unity. So Bolt visual scripting is one, and there's one more. I mean, there's Unity's own visual scripting from Dots. I can provide you the links on tutorials. There are YouTube channels like Code Monkey that make tutorials on visual scripting, Unity's visual scripting. Yeah, I can just send you the link of games. They are making a new series for beginners who are learning Playmaker, so I think that is a really good place to start. This is Left 4 Dead kind of game that you can make through Playmaker. And yeah, I'll just post it here. You can take a look at their videos and see if I'm not that experienced enough to comment on the gaming economy and money for gamers in India, but it's good if you're into game development, then it is a happening industry. Yeah, you can also attend something like IGDC to have a gist of how the game development scenario is in India. And the last time it happened, it was in 2019. I think it was held in Hyderabad, and it was really good. But after that, because of COVID, every IGDC was happening on online. So if you know the basics of Unity, it'll not be that complex at all. Uh, but yeah, I mean, like if you start learning Playmaker, then uh, I mean, Playmaker is way easier than writing 100 lines of code. It's the main reason why people use Playmaker is over code is like it's really fast. You can do something like a prototype of um, a strategy game very fast. Uh, what about Game Salad? I didn't understand that question. I have. Okay, I have never tried it, but I think it is something like RPG VX is. So there is something called Game Guru as well. If you go to Steam, this is a this is a game engine which highly focuses on FPS. You can create cool games like first-person shooters basically, and it is becoming more and more popular. Oh, okay. I have no idea. But yeah, if you think that code is too much to understand, C sharp, then you can try out small game engines, maybe like um, Game Maker Studio or something like Game Guru. There are other Godot is a little uh, new, but still it is really becoming popular. And it's open source, so this is one other game engine that I highly recommend. Unreal is good, but um, yeah, there will be a stream in my YouTube channel. I'll just post it here. I'll just see if it is. Yeah, I'll just. So if you okay, I can do one thing. You can just go to my YouTube channel and I'll be posting it on the community tab after the stream. Please. Um, just after the stream, I'll just post it there. Okay. Any other questions, or and also some feedback on the stream would be nice. So this is one other complex thing implemented with. Yeah, you can reach out to me always. I'll just put my email address here as well. I'll just post the video, and there are this is one other mini project that I did, and what you can do is like you can draw, and it basically makes that a physics object and takes all the coordinates. This is kind of a line runner kind of um, thing. Yeah, I don't know. I was recommended to use music, and that's why I was started. I come from a BCom background. I learned Playmaker through uh, YouTube, and later I transitioned into C sharp. I mean, yeah. I think recently Vaibhav Chavan also made a video on if you do commerce, can you do game development? Obviously, you can do, like your background doesn't matter. It really I mean, he's one of the industry veterans, and like that's one very popular YouTube channel that I would follow. Okay, let's end the stream here. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me on my YouTube channel or my email address. I'll just get back to you. Yeah.